lost mine in the sand. Where will you stand?
Well, it is a very special day for all of us, a day of remembrance. And with that, Hanok, all the way from Modi'in, but I'm sure that this morning, or morning as we're talking right now here, brings back a few memories.
Yeah. So this is, well, as it said in America, 9/11, the anniversary of the Islamic terror attacks on the US.
Yeah,
Um, and every year is another gut reaction, at least at my end.
yeah,
And I think what's probably the saddest is that those horrifically painful losses that America absorbed, none of the lessons that went along with it have been retained. No one seems to remember that the Arabs here who self-identify as something called Palestinians
yeah,
were out celebrating in the street, giving out treats, joyfully acknowledging, and they were ecstatic with the deaths of Americans. And that is something that America has never internalized. And I'm not at all surprised that in these 23 years, America doesn't remember that, because college students are praising Osama bin Laden.
mhm.
And 23 years ago, I can at least tell you, if you would have stopped anyone in New York City and said that, because at the time it wasn't even known who Osama bin Laden was,
Yeah.
that whoever it is that masterminded these coordinated terror attacks across the US was going to be praised by American college students. No one would have believed it. No one would have believed it.
No,
And, you know, I I've gotten into a couple of arguments over the years with people saying, no, you're missing the point. People do remember, they do understand, they have internalized things. And they forget that I lived in New York. So I'm not even talking about 9/11. I'm not
yeah,
even talking about, my brother who was working in Morgan Stanley across the street from the, or people, forget that. All I can tell you is right afterwards, within days, they began building concrete planters in the streets going to Wall Street to prevent a truck bombing. By 2008, 7 years later, they were all removed. So if America no longer remembered the terror attacks in 2008, what can we possibly expect in 2024?
so true. I remember we were in Colorado at the time, and I remember being in a church. Somehow, as to, we were speaking at a uh, Episcopal church or something like that. I can't remember the denomination, but it was one of those that's more liberal on the side of liberal, and spent 2 nights speaking on Islam, on terrorists, on terrorism, all of those things. And the pastor came up after the last meeting and said, "Well, I would like to hear the Arab response." And this was just like a week or two prior to 9/11. You're right. Hold on. For the most part, it's a day of remembrance, kind of the same as Pearl Harbor or something like that. It's a distant memory for so many people, but the lesson going back to the death of Mir Kahana, going back to the
The murder,
other, uh,
the murder.
yeah, murder. Yeah, I'm sorry. The World Trade Center, the 9/11, all the things that were around there. For the most part, very few people have gotten any kind of lesson from that, because when you can when you can praise Hamas for what has been done over the last 340 something days, that
Yeah.
means you're disconnected from anything.
And I've said this a few times on recent updates. There's not a day that goes by that I finally get out of bed. It's not that I've woken up. I mean, I woke up there. I mean, I now seem to be on a thing of getting up at 2:30. So I go to bed at 10:30, I go to bed at 12:15, I'm still up at 2:30. And there's not a day that I look at the news when I don't smack my head repeatedly saying I don't understand what's going on. It's just even this concept that America is wedded to called the two-state solution.
Oh, yeah.
And Vice President Harris, it's interesting. I had no idea there was a debate yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, when people say to me, wow, you live such an amazing life. And I'm like, really? And they said, yeah, you live in a world without Christmas. It's really kind of funny that people draw on that. But Harris's comments last night were the exact same that she said at the Democratic National Convention, that Hamas is a terrorist organization, murdered Israelis, the hostages have to be released, this war has to end, the suffering of those in Gaza, blah, 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 blah. Israel has to be secure, Palestinians. I mean, what's fascinating is it's the Americans and Europeans that are talking about a two-state solution.
Yeah.
Hamas does not and will not ever recognize the existence of any state of Israel, any Jewish state in any borders. And no one, again, we come back to what was popular when I was a teenager, saying, don't confuse the issue with facts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm left scratching my head. Big things are going on. But let's not leave the Americans just yet, because you've got President Biden, who is blasting Israel because an American citizen participating in some kind of demonstration against Israel illegally was inadvertently shot and killed. So they're demanding, Biden and Blinken, that Israel change our firing requirements, our open fire. It's astounding what's going on, but not as astounding as America demanding that Israel negotiate with Hezbollah and surrender part of the land of Israel, part of the state of Israel, in some kind of land swap with Hezbollah. Now, there was a UN resolution back in 2006, Resolution 1701, that called upon Hezbollah to withdraw from the Litani River, but they have not, and no one does anything about it, nor does anyone care. It's almost like the old Jefferson Airplane song, one pill makes you larger and one pill makes you small, and the one that mother gives you doesn't do anything at all. I mean, this is just, it's seriously, I now deeply regret that I did not get high, and in particular that I did not do psychedelics, because then I could at least have some kind of frame of reference for a world that is so disjointed and can only agree upon the amount of hatred that they have for Jews. It's astounding.
And it does come down to that, Hanok. Oh, by the way, there is a news flash that you probably did not see, because I'm doubting that this one made the Israel news. but Cherokee, North Carolina, has now approved recreational marijuana. So I know that's one of your favorite places to go, but now it will be not really for the history of the Cherokees, but for the entertainment of watching the people that are trying to make it from one place to another.
I have to tell you, for all the horrors perpetrated on Native Americans, what they don't need now is more access to drugs.
Yeah, yeah, and I know people up there in Cherokee that I've talked to regarding that. Um, oh, it's crazy. And I will give you one more thing. This is where America is, okay? Regarding the elections and all this, and then we'll get back to Israel. Is that one of the top news stories this morning was that in Pennsylvania, okay, where Trump and Harris were at, there's a bakery there that sold cookies, and some of the cookies were pro-Trump cookies, some were pro-Harris cookies. Okay. Now, you put this down, you might need to get a pen here. The number of pro-Trump cookies was
Okay.
4,228. The number of pro-Harris cookies were 369.
I'm sorry, we kind of lost the connection there for a moment. All I heard was 369.
Okay, so pro-Trump cookies was 4,228. Pro Hamas. Yeah. Pro Harris cookies were 369.
If only the votes in Pennsylvania would go that way.
Well,
Uh,
see, but you're missing something. Okay. You're supposed to be more on top of this for all of our conspiracy theory people out there that are probably not listening to this program. The tabernacle stood in Shiloh for 369 years. There has to be a connection.
yeah, I got to tell
Yeah,
you, I'm
I know.
definitely not wired into
That'll
that.
be on Facebook later on. Hold on.
But
Okay.
one more thing
Yeah.
about the American government. Jack Lew the other day issued a statement expressing condolences for the latest Israelis murdered, this time at the Allenby Bridge,
Yeah.
by a terrorist coming from Jordan. He trying to think of the right word, but he remonstrated Israel for the death of that American Turkish citizen. And he demanded that Israel, quote, restore the status quo on the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
Now, some of our listeners sadly are going to say, who is Jack Lew? Jack Lew is America's ambassador to Israel. He had been the Secretary of the Treasury in the Obama administration. Lew is an Orthodox Jew. I know the synagogue that he belongs to in New York City, in the Riverdale section. I find it amazing that in the midst of
Internet connection today.
quote unquote regional war, because
Okay.
Iranian aggression
We
with
lost you
our
there
hostages. And by the way,
lost you there for a moment.
okay,
You find it amazing. Sorry, go back that far.
I found it amazing that in the midst of everything, the Middle East is perched on the verge of regional war, that Lew centers right in on the Temple Mount and Jewish prayer.
Hold on. This is very similar to when we were when I was in Israel with Hayavel, and we were told that we were in the harvesting of grapes in Judea, Samaria, that we were standing in the way of world peace.
Yeah.
I found that just intriguing that I could be doing something that was standing in the middle of world peace. So, you know my statements to you personally off air when we were together here in Franklin of how prophetic I believe this event of you guys going up there, of the video you shared the other day of prostrating yourself on the Temple Mount. Um, you know what I feel about this.
Yeah,
He just confirmed that.
if it wasn't such a big deal, it never would have come up in his discussions with President Herzog.
No.
So it is fascinating. The other thing that's fascinating is I had a video of the first time I prostrated a week ago, but I didn't post it. This one I think was a little better done. It was taken by a buddy of mine, and I was quicker. But my minute on the mount is the most popular thing that I post.
Yeah.
Easily, I get between 130 and 150 likes within 2 days. And my joke about it is because it's always under 2 minutes, and that's probably what people, the limit of what they can take.
It's the attention
So, you know
span.
what's fascinating? So I posted 2 videos. One is the short, like minute 30 seconds that I
Yeah.
spoke, and the other is the very short video of me prostrating. It got less likes than any other minute on the mount that I've ever posted.
Wow.
And as of before, so this was posted on Sunday, it's now Wednesday. I don't think I have more than 40 likes.
Wow.
So it's either people are missing the significance of what I was involved with. And again, it's not me doing it. I'm one of thousands of Jews that are doing it. Or the fact that in the video, I actually address the issue of what people can do and contributing in donations or purchasing of products from High on the Heart. I don't know, but I do
So-
find it fascinating.
The other side of that is that anybody that's worked with Facebook and social media at all understand that there is a throttling of things. And so you've kind of stepped into that area. So possibly part of that is unless someone's actually following you on Facebook, they're not seeing that on the feed and it's
Could
being
be.
throttled back. It could be, just to give the other side of that. So I want to ask you something regarding this.
Sure.
Re there, I follow the news in Israel, pretty well. I
Yes, you
don't
do.
see much on the typical news outlets that I go to. Do you know how many people in Israel, is there how many people are even giving this attention outside of Lou and these people? The average Israeli on the streets of Israel, of Jerusalem, of Tel Aviv, how much attention are they really even looking at this?
Well, it's interesting because even in the English language Israeli media, there have been a couple of stories about this. Of course, every time Ben Gvir, makes a statement about it, and then Netanyahu denies it,
Yeah.
and then there's an article with pictures of lots of Jews prostrating. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I just got into something the other day when something came up, where someone said to me something about, oh, you're going up to pray on the Temple Mount again, the Har Bayit. And a person that was standing nearby said, well, you can't do that. I said, yeah, we do. She said, no, you don't. So I pulled out my little phone and I showed pictures. She said, you can't do that. Yeah, I can. And along with thousands of others, yeah, we are. So and again, with the war, we're more than a little distracted.
Yeah.
And I do have one little piece of good news coming from North America. I saw something the other day that said Jewish vigilantes, I love Jewish vigilantes are patrolling U of T campus. Okay, now the problem is that University of Texas? Is that University of Tennessee? It's actually neither. It's University of Toronto.
Oh,
And they showed four tough-looking Jewish guys and some kind of shits, patrolling around. And some lunatic Jew hater was like, oh my God, look at this, these fascists. They're there because Jews have been attacked and physically threatened. Duh. Now, the number of campuses that have had anti-Jewish riots, because they're not pro-Hamas, and they're certainly not something called pro-Palestine, whatever that is now more than 120. I'm really surprised that out of all of the, let's just say, non-Jewish supporters of Israel, none of them have gone to break up any of these demonstrations. I met some pretty tough people over all the years of speaking, all the congregations that I go to. I'm surprised that none of them have stepped up. Anyway.
yeah. Well, let's face it. Let's face it. Hold on. This is the problem in the world. I'm going to summarize the issue of what is happening in the world today and all of the problems that could be fixed with this one thing. The issue is that you are a Jew and you're breathing. And if that were not the case, not that you're not a Jew, but if you would quit breathing, Hanok, we would be living in a utopia today.
It is, and when they ask these, and the term useful morons, or what, it doesn't do it justice when they ask these people, so what's the ultimate? They're talking about tearing down America. So when Kamala Harris and what's his name, Waltz, speak about, well, the demonstrators have a valid opinion. They're kind of, their hearts are in the right place. This is calling for the destruction of the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's interesting. Benny Gantz, who is the head of the opposition in Israel, I'm not a big fan of his, but he said something the other day which is really true. He said, things in Gaza have essentially wound down. He said, we need to give an ultimatum, release the hostages or we invade southern Lebanon. Now, in addition to that, I think everyone saw that a residential building in Nahariya was hit.
Yeah.
And one of the Israeli news stations basically said the following: what we need to do is stop targeting Hezbollah. Announce every time a building is hit in Israel, we pick a neighborhood in Beirut to evacuate and then take down a building or a series of buildings. Boom.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if Israel really, if the main objective of the war was to free the hostages, and by the way, sources here are saying that we don't expect more than 50 to 60 to still be alive.
Probably, yeah.
And we know that they're being starved. One of the executed hostages the other day, Eden Yerushalmi, was 36 kilos, 79 pounds. It's an adult woman. So first of all, we need to stop all those aid trucks. All those aid trucks going into, stop it.
Yeah.
If we wanted to release the hostages, I saw something, again, this is in the Hebrew language press, saying that what we should have done is, who has leverage on Hamas? I mean, America is pressuring Israel. Iran.
Yeah.
Now, Iran's nuclear project is very well defended and hidden within mountains. What isn't well defended is their supply of oil. Their economy is very shaky, even with all the billions, tens of billions that America gave it or released. I should say to Iran, we're going to begin taking out your oil and do it piece by piece.
Sure.
But we don't.
And I don't know, you probably thought of this, but so a residential building is targeted, is destroyed, and no one is killed. I mean, just the thought of that a rocket comes into, let's go to what people could understand in America more. A rocket or multiple rockets are fired into an apartment complex and nobody's injured.
Listen, the United States, President Kennedy brought the world to the brink of nuclear war.
Yeah.
Because he thought, by the way, he was correct, that Soviet tactical nuclear missiles were in Cuba. No one had fired a single missile at the United States of America. But the idea that they were 90 miles from Florida,
yeah,
that's what a nation does to protect their people. Instead, what we did is we told everyone to flee, and we've been sitting around. Now, we've absorbed something close to 7,500 rockets and missiles and drone attacks since the 8th of October.
Yeah.
Because Hezbollah started a day later. And it's just absolutely crazy. And we're sitting here scratching the back of our head saying, who's in charge? And again,
Yeah.
Biden a week ago came out, criticized Netanyahu by name, saying he's not doing enough to make a deal with Hamas. And again, I detest the ground that Netanyahu walks on, but he is not the one holding back a deal. Hamas doesn't want a deal.
No.
Because every single day, more and more of the world turns against Israel, and they believe the craziest narratives that we're busy committing genocide, that, Zionism equals fascism, which is Israel's an apartheid state. It's crazy, and no one cares for the truth.
Oh, I mean, I heard on a Hebrew Roots radio station the other day, that's as close as I'll hint to that, a woman who was doing a broadcast that was saying that the problem with America is it's controlled by the Talmudic Jews, and that the IDF has gone in and killed more Arabs. She used the word Palestinians, more Arabs than they've said, and they have them frozen in lockers in Gaza. And I've tried to have this person and others removed from the air to no avail. And I guess that I'm coming to the conclusion of this, that if an owner of a radio station on the internet does not take a person like that off, they must agree with them.
See, now I know the woman you're referring to, and I know the owners of the radio station, and of course I know the name of the radio station. And only out of respect for you, Mike, I'm not going to say it. However, it underscores the point that this is what the Hebrew Roots movement largely, not totally, largely exists upon.
Yeah.
It's conspiracy theories about Jews. I have experienced this. It has been August was 11 years since I started traveling to America to speak to groups. And, people say you should write a book about what people have said to you.
Oh.
No, I'm just going right for the screenplay, kids.
Yeah.
Because this is, but it's really because of the vile language and the deep Jew hatred, it would have to be rated XX. So, no one will see it.
Well, the good news is there are a few people. In fact, my schedule was today to be on the air with Barry Phillips in just a few minutes and record. We're going over the 7 deadly sins of the Hebrew roots movement right now. Actually, there's 8. We kind of played that off of, 7 sins, no 8.
Yeah.
And so this week, this is Foundations for Life. This week, we were going to be talking about the superiority. Let me just get over there to that screen, and I'll just read you what we were going to be talking about today. We have claimed moral superiority over Judah.
Yeah.
And so Barry is not available this morning, so that's going to be talked about next week. So if anybody wonders if anyone is talking about this, yes. And is anyone not going to give up talking about this? Yes. I'm not.
You know, in the meantime, um, our life here in Israel, I posted a picture on Facebook, which you saw, of Sha'ar Yafo, Jaffa Gate, covered with stickers that are created by the friends and family of our fallen soldiers. And you see them all over Israel. You see, billboards just filled with these stickers. Stores, will put them up. It's gut wrenching to see what's left, the memorials of friends and family. And in the gym yesterday, for the first time, I saw a memorial shirt, with the image of a fallen soldier. This guy was obviously in the same unit as his friend. It's just, I no longer have the shirt. I got rid of the shirt at the beginning of the war. It was a shirt that I had no connection to Israel. But it said, when the time comes, there will not be enough people left to bury the dead.
Yeah.
I got rid of the shirt because I felt really awkward wearing that in Israel, when each and every day brings the news of a brother, a son, a father to be whatever. But Gaza should have been leveled.
Yeah.
The Americans kept us out for 3 weeks. Now I got to tell you something going on now. Among the demands of Hamas, and by the way, if Israel gave in to any of these demands, there'd be new demands the next day.
Sure.
One of the demands that they've had is that Gazans be allowed to migrate to the north of the Gaza Strip. There's obviously a reason they want them there. So Israel should do the reverse and push everyone that's in the north of Gaza south. In the same way, they're demanding control of the Philadelphia corridor. And I got to tell you, American intelligence is good enough to realize all the smuggling that went on. And I was reading a report in our press of all the weapons that are sitting in Sinai now from Iran that are destined, God forbid, to go into Gaza via the Philadelphia corridor through Egypt. We're living at a time right now when literally history is being made.
Yeah.
Using an old-fashioned expression, the ink is still on the page in the history books.
Yeah.
And I no longer am questioning why I'm enabled to be involved with it, but just staying focused and doing what I need to do.
That's all you can do. And we'll
Absolutely.
start our campaign on this side of the ocean. Hanok for Prime Minister.
No,
Probably
No.
not. You're
Don't want
you're
it.
too valuable to be put in a place like that.
We've got better people to do that.
All right,
All
man.
right, man.
Take care. See you next
See you
week.
soon. Bye-bye.